Alright, this is going to be a weekly recap video that's going to go over the 4th of October to the 8th, and that was a total of 9 trades, and unfortunately it was a red week, and I think a lot of it had to do with this trade right here, which was a trade where I traded a large position size. And I think what was the worst part about it is that this was a setup that I had to trade on E-Trade, and because I had to trade this OTC trade on E-Trade, I had to trade this larger size, and on top of that I had to pay commissions, which really messed with the week. But I don't think in that, oh yeah, okay, it messed up the week because I would have been up $3. I think this trade just kind of messed me up mentally for the rest of the week, and I think it prevented me from trading these things as well as I should have. And then another thing to note for that week, it was this day, yeah, the 6th. There were some very nice like 11 a.m. morning panic type of stops that eventually try to turn around that time period that I could have traded, and that would have been super profitable, but I did not remember that, and I think that also had to do with the week overall. But let's just go ahead and go over it. 9 trades. Only 3 trades were green, which is a horrible winning percentage. I don't know if, I think I've had something that low before. Here's a 33. I had it before here, but that was only with 6 trades. And yeah, even though it did end up being a red week, in terms of the dollar volume that I traded, it was just about half of 1%. Ideally, it's best to, I guess, put that as close as it can be to 0, but I think that wasn't too bad. It wasn't like I did something ridiculously crazy in terms of that. I just think I should have probably have had maybe a better mindset, and a lot of it could have had to have done with the fact that I could have avoided this trade right here, and that would have made things a lot nicer because it wasn't really the best setup. So my average dollar gain and dollar loss was about the same, and because of that bad winning percentage, it ended up being a red week, sure, but again, a lot of it had to do with this one. My average percent gain is kind of jaded because I had this one that was almost 15, and then a 6, and then this one was 1.7. So I guess at least on the trades that I did do right, it seems like the percent gain was nice, but I know I could have held some of these a lot better. Not necessarily longer, but better. My average percent loss was small, which was good, even on that trade right there. And yeah, this also played a role. My average position size on the winning trade was much smaller than the losing trade because of that large setup right here. And I do like this. My average time in the trade that was profitable was a lot larger than this one, which probably meant that in these types of trades that ended up being a red trade, I cut losses quickly in theory. Let's just go ahead and go over all of these trades. I look forward to going over it. And in terms of what I scored, I actually got like a freaking 58, and like that's not even a D, that's a freaking F. And for 86, that's a B minus. So it seems like maybe I traded the setups well, or I could have done better, but it wasn't as bad as what the setup was in terms of rating. A few of these were definitely big red flag trades that were not really that good, or at least they just immediately failed. But I think I didn't have a single trade where I didn't cut losses quickly, which I think really helped this week not be something disastrous, especially with this trade right here. Let's go ahead and go over all of these trades one by one. Let's look at FERN for a morning panic bounce play, which these things haven't really been doing well lately, but let's go ahead and look at FERN for the 4th. Right about here. So like the 3rd red day, doesn't really look like maybe a really good morning panic bounce play took place because of the fact that it doesn't really show that much range. But let's go ahead and look at it. Actually doesn't look that bad right there. Let's go ahead and highlight this section, and my entry was 939, 341. 939 was this candle. 341 right here exactly. That was my entry. My exit was 940, so almost a minute at 3380. 940, 3380. Right here. Yeah, this is what I've seen lately with morning panic bounce plays. Normally it would downtrend and then kind of put up a range like it did here, and it would hold that range and then it would break past it. But this has become something new recently where it has a morning panic bounce play, kind of makes a low, it makes a range, and then it breaks that range and then it turns around immediately. This is an example of that, and I think I've adjusted now so that if I see a morning panic bounce play, sure, there's going to be that one that just, you know, has a bottom, holds the bottom low or whatever the range is that it makes, and then it uptrends. But a lot of these tend to break that. I'll be super interested in a setup like that if it seems like it's going to be the case and they do offer some kind of a range in terms of profitability. But yeah, that's something I have been looking at. That was a great example, cutting losses quickly, even though it did turn around super nicely eventually. I like that trade right there. Yep. There is a note here to consider the 15-day. Perhaps looking at the 15-day would have maybe have helped, because I could have risked maybe the solid number 33, but I'm very happy with that trade, even though I had to cut it. You know, this is the way morning panic bounce plays are working right now, and I guess you just have to adapt. Next one is ILUS, also a morning panic bounce play for the 5th. Alright, the 5th is right here, and let's see, morning panic bounce play. This is the 5th. My entry was 941 at 3229. 941, which is this candle right here, and 3229. So right about here, basically. So I had this drop. It's not necessarily the cleanest looking one, and I guess the range of risk is this 32 level. And I was in that candle at 941. I got out 943, 31.97. Right here, 943, 31.97. So right about there. So I had my trade at 41, and then I sold it immediately when it looks like it was going to break this level of 32, which it did in the downtrend too. So yeah, just very similar to the other trade. This is, you know, the way they are trading now, morning panic bounce plays, although this one isn't really that clean looking. You know, it has this range, it has that morning panic. The range here, the risk level is 32. It breaks it and then it turns around immediately. Now ILUS is kind of like a sketchy stock. It trades very, very, very weird. So, you know, this could be an exception to the rule, but I have started to see this once again, you know, happen more often than not, where it breaks the low and then it turns around. And that would have been in theory 31 to 32.9, so not even the best. I probably shouldn't have looked at it because it's starting to look like DPLS, where it just doesn't really trade with a nice range. It should be something that I should probably leave alone. But I think that was a good attempt, and back then, you know, I was still not extremely sure, you know, if this is going to be a change in the pattern, which to me, I think it is. Let's look at the 5th. Once again, TGGI. This is a weird setup. First green day reversal did buy, and I put big yes, so it's going to mean that this setup definitely had a lot of opportunity to be super profitable with. Let's look at TGGI for the 5th. Right here, first green day, so you know it's at 26. It's down a whole bunch, right? And you know, this thing could try to continue the run for a few days, which it totally did do, although not really the best. Let's look at the 5th right here, and I'm gonna guess that's why I put that this setup was super profitable. My entry was 1029.965. right about here, 1029, 965. Yeah, so basically right here in this green candle, you know, is it going to be a first green day? Well, back here it has this spike, you know, a downtrend. Sure, it was under VWAP for just a little bit, but just the fact that it made this move from 88 sub penny to 108 shows that maybe this thing is trying to reverse, and then it puts out this level, which could be the first, you know, higher low. And then my entry was right there. It did get as high as 11.4, which would have been super profitable. Let's just look at what a sell would have been at 11.4. That would have made it an 18% move. And yeah, so my entry was there. My sell was 1038, 1025, 1038, 1025. So right here, right about here, between 10.2 and 10.3. That was my sell. And I was thinking, okay, this thing could make another higher low off of this level and then continue the uptrend. It had this little downtrend here, and this ended up actually being that higher low off of here. So once it did that, it did get a bit higher. I might have sold because this definitely looks like resistance. You know, a head and shoulders played out here, but it did break through it, and it did get as high as that level here. There would have been a lot of opportunity to sell for a profit from my entry way back there. So that was a pretty cool setup. And had I have decided to swing trade it, you know, I don't know too much about these days. I would have made it really hard this day right here, but it did turn around, and it is at this 11.5 level. But I mean, if you want to be in and out the same day, this thing offered the range. And I think that was a pretty good setup, a pretty good attempt trying something that isn't a morning panic bounce play. And speaking about really good setups, this one was a bad setup. Let's look at CBYL for the 6th. Well, if it works. Oh, did I type it wrong? Yeah, it's CYBL. CYBL again for the 6th. Let's look at the morning panic bounce play in theory, which was one more day. This was the day right here. Let's go ahead and look at the 6th, which was right here. Very disappointing looking thing. And yeah, let's see. My entry was 334, 1008. So 1008, 334. Yeah, it was this trade right here. So it did ultimately turn around. This is the 11:30 a.m. thing I was talking about, where this thing did turn around from 27 to 31. You could basically draw a trend line, and it would basically hold that level until it didn't around here, I'm going to guess. And even that would have been a profitable sell. Very interesting stock. And then it did eventually, as you can see, have its first green day, which was super nice and something I want to try getting good at. I'm very happy that I tried it on that other trade, TGGI. That was a good attempt. I need to try to work on new setups, especially if morning panic bounce plays just continue to fail like they have recently, or just play all crazy where it breaks the risk level and then it turns around after that. That was the 11:30 a.m. Reversal, and let's just go from there just to bring this a bit closer. Again, I was in at 1008, 334. Right here was the candle, 334. And one of the main reasons why I was interested in it is because it did have like this big volume. At the time it was big volume, and I thought it could maybe try to hold this, but I shouldn't have really traded it because VWAP was downtrending. And when VWAP is downtrending like this, especially on the later morning panic bounce play, it just doesn't seem to really work out. This thing wasn't worth, you know, trading on, especially on E-Trade, because if I were to have traded this on Schwab, no commissions, and then maybe a tiny $400 size instead of a $1,600 size, then it wouldn't have been that bad, because that could have been just a degenerate attempt, not necessarily the best setup, but a try, because it could have perhaps tried around. But the fact that, you know, it was having a downtrending VWAP, this thing was putting up lower highs, if you don't want to count this wick right here, and the price action wasn't looking too nice. The only thing I did here that was really good was that I cut it. I did cut losses quickly. 10.09, 332. So yeah, it was this candle, 10.09, 332. I probably got out because it looked like it was just about to break this 33 level, and when it did, I mean, this thing had a pretty nasty downtrend. It got to 29 very quickly, and there would have been no other point that whole entire day that I think you would have been able to sell at the same price from this range right here. And there were definitely some people who panic sold once that 33 level broke, because there was a lot of volume right here. So I shouldn't have traded that. That would have probably helped me trade other setups that I didn't trade to the last week, and on top of that, I probably just would have felt better too. So that's a good lesson. You know, still a negative $22, you know, week, but I, you know, for my ego's sake, I want to see more green, and I have to be trying better to see that. So let's look at the 6th PUGE, large volume sell, dip, higher low chase. Okay, I did put chase here. Let's go ahead and look at this trade for the 6th. Very sketchy stuff, very interesting run up. This was a day right here. It's still down, uptrending, not downtrending. My entry was 216.897. So that was later in the day. 216 was back here. 897. So basically right here, 216. So yeah, it did have this sell-off, large volume, and then it did, you know, do this nice move from give or take 85 to 93, and then it heads back. And ideally the entry would have been at 87 perhaps, although this one is kind of weird because you see this candle, it traded both sides of the range, and then this one looked weird, but maybe an entry at 87, 88 would have been a little better. But I did try later here, and this one did fail eventually. My sell was 885, 223. So right here, 223, probably because it broke my risk level, which was 88. So right when it looks like 88 was about to turn around and start hitting the 87 level, that's when I cut the trade right there. I did a great job here cutting losses quickly. I could have gotten a better entry. Let's just see what an entry at 88 would have been. That would have been, you know, slightly profitable. And again, the setup here didn't work. If it worked, it would have been a lot nicer, but I probably could have done better in that sense, but you know, it could have been a lot worse. I did cut losses quickly there too, and I did trade a very small position because I knew this thing wasn't the most ideal setup, so at least I had that in mind too. And then the next day I traded PUGE. This was a morning panic bounce way higher low, so that's the next day. Nice green day. Let's bring this back. This was a day. Look at this nice uptrend. Seriously nice uptrend, but it's a very sketchy stock. It didn't have a wick at some point. Let's go ahead and look at it again. Morning panic bounce way higher low, 957.88. So let's just probably bring this a bit closer, although you can see it just uptrended the rest of the day nicely. 957 right here, 57.88. So right when it was probably looking like it was going to break past this 88 level, maybe there was a lot of people on the bid, just a few people on the ask. And what that led to be was a type of setup where I get in right as it looks like it's going to do it. And I had my risk level at 87 if it breaks. So if 87 would have broken, I would have cut it. Even though we did have a little downtrend here previously, it was still at 87. It was just probably like 87 flat, and this was like 87.5 or something like that perhaps. My sell was 958, so I literally held this thing for under 2 minutes. 958.895 right here, 958.895. So just right under this 9 level, right about here was my sell. Pretty crappy sell, but you have to take into consideration my previous trade was a losing trade, and then I had that stupid trade with CYBL, so it did kind of mess with me. But I'm very happy that this thing did get as high as 93. Let me just see what a sell at 91 would have been. That would have been a 3% move. That would have been $15. Not the smallest size, but still kind of small. And the best part about this is that it did get to this level. It did downtrend, but it did put up just a baby higher low, or you can call this a double bottom. And then it did try again. It put up a higher low officially from here, and that would have been a nice sell into 97 as soon as that first red candle was formed. Or even all of this range right here, would have been an opportunity to sell while you're at the top of what could be the bounce high for that moment. And of course, this thing did continue the uptrend even more and put up even more highs, like 10.8, right? So, and that's like without putting lower lows or something like that, unless you want to count this as a lower low from here. But let's just see what a sell at 95 would have been. Yeah, that would have been a lot nicer. Maybe not a lot of money, but that would have been a nice percent gain. Definitely a lot of room for opportunity on a setup like that I can keep trying to improve with. And this thing just keeps uptrending. This thing is now at 137, so that's pretty cool. I was trading it while it was still a sub penny stock. Let's look at the next one. This is the last 3 trades. They were all within a very close time period. This is a super weird, sketchy stock. It actually had a super nice first green day. I just didn't see it because I probably just had too many tickers that I didn't take the time to look at any recent runners. But it did make a nice second day. Let's just look at MMTLP for the 8th. Alright, is that all it's traded? I really don't know anything about this stock. I'm just trading the ticker. I'm not a fundamental trader, but it did have this move here. But this looks super freaking hard to trade. Yeah, this would have been mega hard to trade. Probably for the better. I didn't see it that first day, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't have considered it at all just because of the way it's trading. But this was a super beautiful day right here. I wish I had seen it while it was doing this. Not even the trade, just to look at it. In fact, I might even do like a TD immediate trade replay and just see when this thing is just topping and then it just whoosh, it just has that big old panic sell. That is ridiculous. Let's look at the first trade. Did this setup work? I put big no, so that means if I didn't cut losses quickly, I would have had a shitty percent loss. So let's look at 1109, and this is what's the setup? First dip towards VWAP. Okay. 1109. Look at the size, by the way, $75. Because I knew this thing was sketchy, but I still wanted to trade and learn from it, and I'm very happy that I traded it. And I'm also happy that it isn't a foreign stock, because then I would have made it 6 freaking letters long, and then I would have had to have paid a $60 commission just to trade foreign stocks in Schwab. That would have been horrible. That would have been super bad. Not necessarily because the trade was bad, just for my ego's sake and considering the size. But alright, let's not get too carried away. Let's look at 1109, and my entry was 150. Let's probably zoom in a bit closer. Oh, there's not much you can do when a move is like that. So 1109 was right here, this candle, this big red candle, and I was in probably because at the time it was looking like it was holding VWAP, which here at this point VWAP is above it, but sometimes while you're still in the moment, at that moment VWAP is just flickering back and forth, and it might try to hold that level. And I was in at 150. So really not the, or was it really this candle? I guess I should try to zoom in a little more. Yeah, okay, so yeah, the move was right here still. It was probably, VWAP was probably right under it, or maybe right at it. I guess maybe it is the way it was right here, but I've noticed sometimes VWAP moves a lot while you're in the moment, but once you look back, it's like it makes a clear level. But right here was my entry at 150, and I got out the next minute, 11:10 at 145. So 11:10 was right here, 145. So what happened was that when it cracked to this 150 level, which was probably where VWAP was sitting, I sold immediately, and you know, it's a good thing I did. I cut losses quickly, because had I have not have cut losses quickly, the thing got as low as $1.08, and that would have been a super crappy sell. Let's just say that was worst case scenario. You know, I would have lost still only 21 bucks, but that would have been a horrible percent loss. Probably the worst percent loss I would have ever have taken. But again, that's why I at least traded just a tiny $75 position, because I just want to learn from this setup more than, you know, like trying to make back like these massive, you know, gains like from the whole week or something crazy like that. I'm just still practicing, still trading a lot of these setups, but you know, that was comfortable for me at the moment. If I see something like this again, I'll be much more interested in trading a larger size. Maybe not trying to catch a falling knife. Is it going to hold VWAP? But definitely the inverse head and shoulders opportunities here was super nice. The next trade was the same stock, but this was a stupid trade. You know, apparently when I went back to the video, I said that this was the 3 green ticker rule, but that was totally not the case. Let's look at 11:21, which was right here. Right here was my entry, 11:21. The 3 green ticker rule is this: first green candle, second, third one, you get in and you risk the bottom of the 3rd green candle. Let's probably yeah, it's easy to move it back. Let's probably zoom in this chart a little more. So again, first, second, third green candle, you risk the bottom of that candle, which was 145. It did get as high as 155. And then here the low was 146. First red candle, and then here the low was 145. Second red candle, I would have had to have sold for basically 145. It would have been a tiny loss, or maybe even a tiny gain or break even. That would have been the 3 ticker rule, 1, 2, 3. But why did I freaking get in at 11:21 with that setup in mind? I put now VWAP breakout, but really the setup was you know, 3. That was it. You know, I really don't know why I traded that. That was so dumb. But that was my risk level here, VWAP 150. So yeah, 11:21 was my entry at 150 right here. And I did hit the ask. A few seconds later, I could have gone in at like 46 and I would have made it you know, less of a loss, but that's fine. It's just little tiny differences. My sell was the next minute, 11:22, 144. Right here, 144 was my sell, and it's a good thing I did, because it was this candle right here. Had I have not have sold, it did get as low as 116. So not as bad as the first one, but definitely, you know, I don't understand why I traded this thing thinking it was a green ticker rule. I would have had to have been in here, not in this candle. That's ridiculously dumb, especially because it's the second red candle. I would have sold had I have been in this trade. So I don't know what was my mindset going on at the time. And the thing is that it did prevent me from trading this right here, which would have been an inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder, right? It did prevent me from doing that. Or the 3 green ticker rule here, first, second, third, you risk the bottom of the 3rd candle, 132. You're in at 139, and you sell at the first or second red candle. Here's 1, and then here's 2. So, you know, a sell at, let's say a sell at freaking, because it did uptrend later, a sell at 160, and you're in at 139, 140. That's not bad. So I don't understand again why I traded that mess right there, but I traded it. It's recorded, and I can learn from that, and hopefully I won't do something that dumb again. Really don't like how dumb that setup was. And then the last one, I happy that this one is something I did trade. It did push me. You know, I did push myself. Not it did push me. I pushed myself to trade this last one, which was inverse head and shoulders. This one's really worked out. Let's look at 1150, 143.5. 1150 was right here, and then 143. So basically 144. This was my entry right here, and I sold 5 minutes later 1155 for 165, which was this candle. I remember it right here. Inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder. You can say it's not perfect because this thing did have, you know, a little wick which was lower than the head, but this thing is super clean otherwise. And it was a little sketchy because it was under VWAP briefly, but the last two times it was under it, it came back, and it was consistently putting up higher lows, low, higher low, higher low. And yeah, if I see this same setup, I'll probably consider a $1,000 trade, maybe a $2,000 trade, or just something larger than $75. Definitely something larger than 75 bucks. And that was a super nice trade. Again, I had that sell here, and I think my entry was 1149, right? 1150. Okay, so right here, and it did get as high as 186, and it did break this level right here. I'm very happy with my sell where it was, though, although it did, I guess in theory, put up like a not really perfect higher low. This is more like consolidation. I'm really happy with that trade. Yeah, that's all I got. I just have to not trade a stock setup on E-Trade that is gonna cost commissions a large size to make up any commissions lost if it does become a winner, on the setup that's not really too ideal. A late morning panic bounce play on something that has a downtrending VWAP, and then it's putting up lower highs as well. I shouldn't have traded that, and then I should have considered trading when it did that 11:30 a.m. reversal with CYBL. Or is it CBYL? No, it's CYBL. It was also the same case with TGGI, I believe, ILUS. That same day, a lot of them had that 11:30 a.m. reversal. I just need to really keep that in mind when a stock is consistently breaking the low. Just another like continuation, not a regular morning panic bounce play, but something that just keeps making new lows and lows and lows. It's not an exact science, but a lot of them tend to turn around that 11:30 a.m. level. You know, it puts up like an inverse head and shoulders. It puts up its first higher low, and sometimes it might break that, or it might just consolidate there and never really make a move. But it's just a lot nicer in terms of risk reward. I need to keep that in mind. And also, morning panic bounce plays aren't working that well. It likes to break the low or the range that it's trading in and then turn around immediately. I need to keep that in mind if I do want to try trading them, and of course I might miss one that doesn't do any of that weird nonsense. I should probably stay away from sketchy stocks like ILUS that has weird price action. And oh, one last thing to note. I can finally short on Schwab. I had two accounts. One's a regular account, one is a short selling account. I accidentally broke the PDT rule there. 4 months have gone by, and I'm wondering, shouldn't it let me trade now? It's still asking, you know, it still has a margin call, so I can't trade off of it. Apparently on Schwab, and this is great for anybody here who is trading Schwab, if you break the PDT because you don't have a cash account, which you should probably do, I think, you need to definitely, you know, not call Schwab. You can message them live right on the platform. They'll give you like an exception, one exemption, which will let you go back to, you know, being able to trade, and then you can switch to a cash account. But then right after that, you know, if you break the PDT rule again, you'll just have to make a new account. I should have messaged Schwab so much sooner. And now that I have that all in place, I'm probably going to have to move money there, because I did move money away from it. Not sure how long it would take to you know, be tradable again, that account I had there. And at this point, I can in theory short sell stocks. Now it's a bit late, but I was super interested in shorting ISWH, especially because it did have that, you know, movement right here, and it failed and then it came back. This is like not perfect, but it's almost like a number 6 pattern, but I'm probably too late to that. But at least in theory I can't be able to short again. That's all I got. A lot of good lessons. I look forward to rewatching this, and yeah, a lot of room for improvement.